Good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting of the Southampton Town Board to order on this 10th day of July, 2018. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could remain standing as we join together in a moment of silence, make sure your ringers are off. Let's keep in our thoughts and prayers all of the brave men and women of our armed services who bravely defend our freedoms around the world each day. Let's take a moment to keep them in our hearts and prayers. Okay, please be seated. Councilman Bouvier is on the way. He got into a minor accident on the way here today. He's not injured, thankfully, nor was anyone else, but he'll be here in about 15 minutes. Could I ask the clerk to please call the roll?
Supervisor Schneiderman.
Present.
Councilwoman Lofstad.
Here.
Councilwoman Scalera.
Here.
Councilman Bouvier. So with us, Councilman Schiavone.
Here.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Okay, as a first order of business, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular town board meeting from June 26, 2018.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. All right, Cindy, will you take us through the communications?
Absolutely. The following communications have been received in the office of the town clerk. We have received notices from the Department of the Army, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit application for a private row in Hampton Bays. From the Office of the State Comptroller, an order as it relates to the application of the North Sea Beach Colony Erosion Control District dated July 6, 2018. From the New York State Department of Conservation, Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, notification of public comment sessions regarding offshore wind energy development within New York Bight region. July 11th, 2018, from 4 to 8 at the Montauk Community Playhouse in Montauk. And July 12th, 2018, from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Shinnecock Commercial Dock in Hampton Bays. From the Suffolk County Department of Economic Development, the 2018 Peconic and Gardner's Bay Aquaculture Lease Application Cycle Meetings, July 30th, 2018, and August 13th, 2018, 7 p.m. at Riverhead Town Hall in Riverhead. Town of East Hampton Public Hearing Notice and Town of Riverhead Public Hearing Notices. From the Town Fire Districts, we received the 2017 Annual Audited Financial Statement filings from North Sea and Riverhead Fire Districts, financial disclosure statement filing from the listed individual, and land use applications regarding the following: Planning Board application for Seatuck Cove Estates, and Zoning Board of Appeals applications for Ludlow Lane, Hampton Bays, Inlet Road East, Southampton, West Beach Drive, Southampton, and Canoe Place Road, Hampton Bays. No bid openings took place. The following report was filed from the Town Comptroller for the June 2018 monthly financial reports, and that concludes the communications for this meeting's agenda.
All right, thank you, Cindy. So we're going to move on to public hearings. I'll ask the clerk to read the first public hearing notice.
Public hearing number 1 regarding unsafe and dangerous conditions at the premises located at 215 Long Neck Boulevard, Flanders.
Thank you, and Richard Harris from our Town Attorney's Office will introduce this. Should they go the other direction? They need to get stamped in?
They need to get stamped in.
Those have already been provided to the town board. I believe there's copies for your convenience today. Those are draft copies of the report that was prepared by Chris Fedden, our town engineer, to provide some updates on the property in question. Good afternoon, Mr. Supervisor, members of the town board, Mr. Burke. This is a public hearing regarding the property located at 215 Long Neck Boulevard in Flanders, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-123-5-10. On May 15, 2018, Chief Fire Marshal issued an initial report to the town board describing the condition of the house, the grounds, and the bulkhead upon this property. On May 22nd, a resolution was adopted scheduling this public hearing. In the interim, a report was prepared by Ms. Christine Fenton, which you have in front of you. Notice of this public hearing was published, and the notice was served upon the last known owners of the property, who are Frederick Powell and Laura Gerard, in accordance with the town code, via regular mail, certified mail, and by posting. Posting was done on May 25th, 2018. Mailings were accomplished on June 5th and 6th of 2018. I have my file here for the town board if you need it, 4 affidavits of service, an affidavit of posting, and photographs of the posting upon the building in question. The structure we're here to talk about today is a 1-story, single-family dwelling with a partial basement and attached garage. The house is presently vacant and has been for some time now, at least the past 3 years. The house first came to my attention and code enforcement and the fire marshals back in 2015 when we received reports of a failing bulkhead. The property had been vacant for years, and the structural components of the bulkhead have significantly deteriorated over the past few years since we found out about it. In April of 2016, both the town engineer and the chief fire marshal visited the property to inspect the bulkhead and found that it was severely deteriorated. It was not completely structurally unstable at the time, but the house was actually stable. Since that time, both structures have deteriorated. When we found out about this and inspected the property, I began a prosecution in our town justice court against Ms. Gerard, who was one of the registered owners of the property. She explained that the property was owned by her and one Frederick Powell, and that a mortgage was in place with Deutsche Bank. Charges were brought against Ms. Gerard, and she's unable to make any repairs to the property. I also charged Select Portfolio Service Incorporated, which manages properties for Deutsche Bank. Did not have any success on that route, and in May 2016, Chris Fenton, the town engineer, returned to find the bulkhead had deteriorated even further, with soil flowing under and over the bulkhead. It appeared that the neighboring property owner had performed a reconstruction of his bulkhead right next door, and the property in question, 215, was used as a staging ground upon which to store properties during the reconstruction, and that contributed to further deterioration of the subject property. The Bay Constable also confirmed that the bulkhead had deteriorated further. At this point, the house itself had begun some collapsing as well, but it was just the front overhang and it was still structurally stable. Since this time, in 2016, neither the owners nor the servicing company took any action to repair the bulkhead or the house. I had it in justice court with the 2 defendants. I asked our engineer to re-inspect the property in May of 2017. At that point, she noted that portions of the house had begun to deteriorate and some structural portions of the front porch had fallen apart. In communication with Deutsche Bank and the representative attorney for them, I began a action under the RPAPL zombie law. It's an enforcement action that would cause a mortgage holder to pay $500 in fines per day until the house and the bulkhead are repaired, and they'd be required to make the repairs necessary. Deutsche Bank, after delay for some time, rather than make the repairs, they relinquished their mortgage. They simply released it and walked away, knowing that it's going to be too much. So in that case, I may have won a battle but lost a war. But what that did do is make the house free and clear in the ownership of Mr. Powell and Ms. Gerard. This is going back just a few months. Thereafter, Ms. Fenton went back yet again with Ms. Kraft to assess the condition of the house and the bulkhead and found significant structural issues. The house is now open to the elements, and there's ample evidence of animals living in it and dying in it. We've also had reports of infestation by rats below the floorboards and making out onto neighboring properties. The bulkhead deteriorated even further, and it's in danger of complete collapse into the canal. In summary, based on the inspection of the residence and the exterior inspection of the garage, the bulkhead, the structural integrity of the building is now severely compromised due to the rot damage. The bulkhead itself is in a state of partial collapse, and the integrity is compromised due to the rot and the surcharging of the soils going through it. I have Chris Fenton here today who can give you a brief update on the condition of the property, but with regard to my part of this, we've now taken all necessary mailing steps in accordance with the town code. The property poses a risk to the health and safety of the neighborhood in its current condition, as well as to emergency personnel that may have to respond to any further incidents that take place. I'm recommending to the town board at this time that the Office of the Town Attorney, the Town Engineer, the Building Department, Fire Prevention, and Code Enforcement be authorized to take whatever steps are necessary to bring the property into compliance with Chapter 261, 123, and 128 of the Town Code. What I'm asking specifically is that the structure, the building, including the foundation and any fuel sources, as well as a septic system or cesspool, be completely removed, and that all proper and necessary actions prior to doing that work also be authorized, which would include extermination of any vermin in there prior to demolition, so as to not allow the rats to scurry to other places, which is standard in this type of operation. All associated debris from the demolition found on the property should be removed to bring the property into compliance with the property maintenance code. And I'd also be asking that the aforementioned departments be authorized to obtain the permits necessary for the demo of the structure and for the repair or replacement of the bulkhead. That would involve a DEC permit, which could be handled by either the engineer's office or the fire marshal's office or myself. That's what I'm asking for today. If you'd like, Ms. Fenton is here and she can give you an update on it.
All right, let's start with questions for Mr. Harris.
Yeah, you have two resolutions on. Why?
They were duplicates. I put one in.
They are, okay. I thought I was missing something, and maybe you were asking for something
You
different.
can, it's the same thing. You can
Okay.
eliminate the first one, number 699, and just vote
And
upon
we'll do it on the
7.
second one. And then why is this in a draft? Are we adopting this, or
Because
is?
that's what I had on my computer when I printed them out this morning. You
Gotcha.
have, that's
Okay.
just, it's pretty much the same thing except for some
right.
typos that were changed in the final draft.
Okay.
Councilman Schioni?
Yeah, we've been chasing this since 2011, and good job getting Deutsche Bank to release anything. So now we have two owners of this property. Will we be able to put a lien on the property so that the taxpayers of the town will be made whole?
That's exactly what we'll do.
If they- Okay. When they sell it, so everything that we were doing, we plan on getting that money back.
Exactly, and if the county happens to move on the property, we'd be reimbursed if they were to take the property too.
Okay.
How much is the bulkhead gonna run?
I'll let you
No.
talk to Christine Fenton
Okay.
about that.
Well, yeah, that's kind of related to my question, since we do have the ability to assess the property for the cost, and our costs tend to be higher because prevailing wages and other guidelines that affect municipal works. I would just say that we should be doing the minimum necessary for public safety, to not go beyond and build the full bulkhead, but secure it as best we can.
Right, yeah, yes, the minimum is.
Not the Cadillac
if it-
version
If
of
it
a
can be
bulkhead.
fixed, yes, we'll do the Hyundai version of it.
Okay.
But we want it to be structurally stable.
No offense to
The code
Hyundai.
requires, no offense to Hyundai, they're a great company. As long as it's structurally stable, we're not looking to make it absolutely beautiful and the nicest bulkhead on the block, just it has to be functional.
Do we know if there are any other lien holders on the property?
There are no others. Now that
Okay.
Deutsche Bank is gone, it's just the two owners.
Okay.
Are owners of the property present today? Is anybody here representing the owner? No. But you've been sending them certified mail?
I follow the code, which requires just a posting on the property and regular mail. I also send certified mail to both them. I've dealt personally with Ms. Gerard for
Yeah, you've
quite a
told me.
while now. She's,
Are they aware of this hearing today?
yes,
They are.
by code they are. Ms. Gerard knows about it too.
At one point, they were going to actually take steps to remedy it themselves, and they obviously decided
Ms.
not
Gerard
to do
was
that.
going to. Fred Powell, I have never actually met or spoken with. He was a guest of the state for some time, so I haven't spoken with him. Ms. Gerard is simply not in a position to do anything with regard to the
Okay.
property, and she's somewhat of an unwilling owner of the property.
You've had some communication with the lenders too, all the subsequent,
That was Deutsche Bank and then Split Portfolio Servicing, which is the servicing company that's supposed to service a damaged bulkhead, and, well, you saw what they did.
no real response at all from them.
Plenty of response, but not the one I wanted.
All right, thank you, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
All right, Christine Fenton, our town engineer, is here.
Good afternoon. Rich covered the bulk of what needed to be said. I'll provide the town clerk with the finalized copy of the report that you have. But I think the pictures speak for themselves. Cheryl and I didn't actually go into the building. We peeled off the front fascia and the studs were rotten. So you could see in, there's a lot of deterioration. There's a lot of evidence from where the roof had failed and brush had come into it. You could hear running water in there, in the building, but there's no Suffolk County Water Authority service to the building, so it was likely rainwater or something else going on in there, but it's not in a safe condition, the building. The garage doesn't seem that bad, but the building itself, the home is in terrible shape.
So you'd be doing a full demolition, right? So you'd have to disconnect the utilities coming in?
You'd have to disconnect the utilities, they're already turned off. You would have to abandon the sanitary system in accordance with the health department. like Rich said, you would want to have an exterminator there present. You'd have to go out to bid separately for the demolition of the building, and.
There's no
the-
asbestos
the-
issues here, though, right? Probably.
It's vinyl siding right now. Normally, you would do an asbestos assessment. I don't know if, I don't believe or recommend that we go that route because of the condition of the building and its instability to be able to access the interior of it. So I think in this case, it's lay it down and take it out.
So we would hire a contractor to do the demo,
Yes.
basically. Okay.
Yes. Is there any questions?
Do we have,
You've answered them.
is there like a requirements contract? Do we have to separately RFP that, or do we have a list at a price?
I think you have to separately RFP it. I haven't come across any contracts that would allow for this other than general construction, which is, this is a little different. So I would do an
Case
RFP
by case
for it.
still? Okay.
We've done 3 in the last couple of weeks, some significant demolitions. So.
All right. Any other questions for our engineer?
No.
Thank you, Christine.
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Anyone else who wishes to be heard in this public hearing?
There are a lot of community members here. We've been
Anybody?
waiting for this for a
Ron?
while.
Huh? Ron Fisher? I'm assuming you came out for this one.
A whole bunch of stuff. We'll start with this one. So this, I was the past president of the Bayview
can
Pines
just
Civic
identify
Association.
yourself,
Sure.
even though you don't-
My name is Ron Fisher. I'm the president of the Flanders, Riverside, Northampton Community Association. This has been in this condition since 2008. It's been abandoned. It took a decade to get to this point, so we would encourage you to vote on the demolition. We've also tried to work with the owners. Once we found out the lien was released, I contacted the owners to see if they'd be willing to sell it so that it could be redeveloped and avoid this process. Mr. Powell wasn't interested. So the community has worked really hard to get it to this point, and we need you guys to get it over the finish line. So I do want to reiterate, though, also that there are a lot of rats there. So if you could make sure you exterminate and fumigate before you just knock it down, that would be great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
All right. Anyone else, sir?
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Bruno from Flanders. I live right across the canal from the property. And to save you guys some money, we have somebody that wish to buy that property. The gentleman is right next door. So he will be only too happy to buy that property and save you guys a lot of money for demolition or whatever plan.
It doesn't sound, from what Richard said, that one of the owners is a willing seller. Is that incorrect or correct?
I've had no direct communication with.
Oh, I thought you said he
We
didn't want to sell.
cannot, we can't force a third-party sale.
No, I'm not saying you should force it. I'm just saying you have a buyer if,
That buyer should contact the owner of the property.
okay,
How long do we have after we authorize this again? I forget.
I mean, it's just-
We're going to have to put it out to bid, at least for
Yeah.
the bulkhead reconstruction, and maybe an alcohol contractor for the demo. We're talking 30 days, absolute minimum.
Mike, I don't, like, if we wait for that to happen, it's going to stay there, and from what our engineer is telling us, it really is a safety hazard at this point. There is time in between us doing this and actually something happening, so if he were to do something, I'm sure he'd contact Mr. Harris, and it can come back to the board at that point. But you all have been great advocates for what's been going on at that site for several years now. We're at this point, so I would just think about whether or not you would want us
Delay.
to not do this right now. And I don't think we have a choice with our engineer telling us what she's telling us.
And
but
I know the
I agree
owner.
100%. It's definitely a safety hazard and a health hazard.
There will be time in between.
Then I
if they really
appreciate
do
you
wanna
guys
have it.
very, very much then. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Boy.
Councilman Scavone, did you?
Well, I know the owner has made no secret about wanting to purchase the property and to help rectify the situation.
Oh, the owner of the neighborhood
Yeah,
property.
the adjacent property.
Yeah.
Sure, if
He's
there's
been
a way
trying
that
for
we
some
can
time.
be an intermediary, we would, but we're not, we're not the sellers, obviously.
I mean, truth be told, we're going to likely move forward, and that cost will be assessed onto the, the tax bill of this property, and it will likely be a higher number than if they did it themselves.
Absolutely.
So if it could be done expeditiously by the neighbor who is, let's say, a contract vendee to purchase the property, it would save us a lot of trouble, and it would save that person some money. but I don't think that we're willing to slow down here. So it would have to happen very quickly, Mike. All right, we have another,
Roy?
Roy?
My name is Roy Jager. I live directly behind the 215,
Behind or across?
behind whichever.
Across the
Across the canal.
Across the canal.
behind.
Across the water.
Right.
I've
You've been there.
observed it from your property.
Right. The question I think what Michael is trying to say is that what, after you knock this down, and it becomes a possession of the town of Southampton?
No.
What's going to happen?
It doesn't.
All right, what's going to happen after that?
It's in the possession of the original owners.
Yeah, we don't take possession.
It will just be a vacant piece of property.
Okay.
Once we're done with it.
It's still in the possession of them, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
That's why I asked about the lien.
All right,
So when they
so
go to sell
who's
it,
going to pay or reimburse the town for the money that it's going to cost to knock this down and replace the bulkhead?
in the short term, no one, but if they ever sell the property, that's when the lien kicks in, and that we will recoup our money and be made whole.
So in other words, in essence, the town of Southampton is going to put a lien on the property?
Yes,
Is what you're saying?
yes.
So as far as what we're talking about, as far as the possibly within 30 days, getting this resolved by whoever wants to purchase the property, that needs to be done through the owner that's listed there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Jim, is that correct, though, in terms of how the town gets reimbursed? Doesn't the Suffolk County Tax Act
Well, we
make
put it
us
on-
whole? The
It becomes
county,
part of our assessment. and
it's the
if-
county that gets paid back. when
Well,
it
if the
gets
county,
sold.
if the
But
county.
we get made whole right away, I believe. by the
Well, it
county.
becomes part of our tax bill, and then if they don't pay it, then the county pays it, right?
The county pays
We'll get
it.
paid either way.
Right, but then the county may,
It's the county that will get paid later on.
if the county takes it,
They have
then
to
that
take
could
it
be a
and-
situation where the county
Okay.
eventually might put it up for auction, or they could ask us if we want it, that's down the road.
D2H transfer.
Yeah, that's 3 or 4, that's probably, many years down the road before the county, because the county hasn't taken the property
It
yet.
typically would take a number of years of tax default before the county will step in and take it.
Minimum of 3. Vacant land, it can be a
Minimum
little bit
3.
shorter. Well, if it's an improved property, then it's a minimum of 3. Vacant land, it actually is just only a minimum of 1. So on vacant land, it's a lot quicker. Vacant.
Well, it's soon to be vacant.
It'll be a minimum of 1, but typically at least 2.
I just have a question for Rich. The 30 days,
Rich, if you're going to answer a question, you're going to have to come back to the podium.
you're saying it takes approximately 30 days before we would, with the RFP and the bid for the demolition issue.
At minimum.
What about the filing of the lien? Like, is that going to be pretty instantaneous, or is
The
it the
lien,
same
I'm going to
time?
file next week.
Yeah.
Okay,
According to our code, I need to file it's the equivalent of a list pendants to the Suffolk
Right.
County Clerk's office.
so you have, you're like a week, right? You
As
usually
soon
do
as
it,
the
okay.
resolution's done.
Okay.
Even before you know the actual costs?
It normally goes in there just based upon the resolution itself, because we're not going to know what the cost is.
Okay.
And then you'll
Yes.
amend it later?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if somebody wanted to buy it in the interim, let's say, the lien would just transfer to them, and then they would have to satisfy it.
Right.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter.
Costs.
Okay.
All right. Roy, did you have any more?
No, that was pretty much it. I was glad to hear that at least the bulkhead is not going to be, I think somebody used the term Cadillac, because the expense to replace the bulkhead in that area as far as doing the basic bulkhead is, well, even on the government side of expense, is still going to be under $100,000.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing.
It's not a big area, the bulkhead.
No, it's only 80 feet.
Yeah, so-
80 feet with 2 returns. And the guesstimation to do that, even on the high side, is probably around 50, 60,000. But then you add a certain percentage because of the government labor, and et cetera, I'm going to guess about under $100,000.
Well, I don't, yes? Even for us,
But
The most basic?
Add 30 to the regular, 30%
It's
markup.
8 foot, the property width, we have
I'm sorry, Christine, you're going to have to come up to the microphone. Is that what we're looking
The
at?
property-
Potentially a $100,000 expense to shore that bulkhead up?
We could do it a couple of different ways if we're just looking to shore it up. Right now, it's got a tieback and a deadman system in addition to the sheathing. So typically, you would remove it and replace it. The DEC is going to make you remove the sheathing at a minimum. You could do a cantilever, but then you wouldn't be able to put all the soil back until the next owner would come in and put the tiebacks and the deadman in. So if you're putting a full replacement, even at a residential scale, not Cadillac, you'd probably be looking at that kind of cost. it's an 80-foot wide property, but you have a boat ramp on that property, a boat launch, if you will, on that property too. So you have 2 returns into that up to the grade of the lawn.
Oh, boy.
So it's not,
Is there another approach, just hold it all together until we have a new owner, or
Well,
somebody's ready to do it right?
that's what I was saying with the cantilever. You could put the sheathing in, but you'd have to take the soil, bench it back from the back side of the wall, so you're not putting that much load on the sheathing. And then when they come back later, they can finish it, but you'd probably want to put a fence around that so that, you know,
Right.
yeah.
And you have to build it to, what, sea level rise predictions?
I'd like to talk to Rich Harris about that, just because when we do our own projects, we take that into account. If this is a scenario in which it's property maintenance, is it just remove and replace in kind, which goes to what FEMA usually does when you have a incident like that? I'd like to talk to Rich about that. It would make sense to lift it up a little bit so that it's not
It's
flooding
gotta match the
during.
neighbors,
Right.
probably at least.
You'd want to match it on both sides. So,
It's a good.
Yeah, because you don't want to create a problem on
So
either
you're-
side
so-
of it either.
So you're talking potentially up to $100,000 in bulkhead and the demolition, which, let's say,
the
is
demolition on
$10,000 or
top of that.
$20,000?
You also have an oil tank there.
15 to 20, so we're talking about like $120,000
And you have
tax lien.
exterminators and all that other stuff.
Right,
that you
maybe
have to take out.
$130,000 tax
Yeah.
lien. That's a large tax lien.
Yeah, you worry about
So I was
sterilizing
asking
the
about the
property,
lien
you know?
holders and what the properties.
Yeah, making
property
it,
was.
making it more of a tax lien than property's worth. That's the,
That's
then.
That's the
That
problem.
could be a problem.
Yeah,
I don't know
sure.
what this property is
It's,
worth.
it's probably worth a good, it's a nice neighborhood. I mean, it's beautiful waterfront. But it's,
Right, if somebody's going to buy it now, they're going to have the cost of building a new home
sure,
and the cost of reimbursing the town for that work.
right.
It might make it unsellable.
Unless it potentially would be a neighbor that maybe would add value to their property by virtue of having it there, I don't know, but yeah, I mean,
Possibly.
it could.
but
It will.
It could make it
The
unsellable.
county will be on the hook to make the town whole in the interim.
Are we
If he doesn't
required
pay.
to,
Well, we're required to let the county even know that.
are we required to keep the boat ramp? I mean, that sounds like an expensive repair and a nice amenity.
Well, the boat ramp itself is fine.
The-
The cement part is fine.
Yeah.
It's doing the returns. And if you have somebody to do it the correct way, it's not going to be all that expensive.
And if
associated
you
parking.
endeavor to take that ramp out, you would be incurring more cost. And it's a little bit more disturbing to that canal.
Since the
Right.
code that we're following is to repair or replace the bulkhead, they'd be talking about an expansion of the bulkhead. We're not in the improvement business, we're in the
Right.
maintenance business.
You gotta do
And
it
it
as is.
really, whatever we do there has to be laser focused on public safety.
Which is kind of
Correct.
silly.
Yeah,
You know, rebuilding a boat ramp not a
We're
public
also
safety
trying to
issue.
protect the canal too. We don't want any sediment running in there too. And we will have to get a DEC permit for the work to be done, so we'll be doing exactly what they say.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard? Ron, you already had a shot. Anyone else who has,
I'm done.
you're
Thanks,
done?
Ron.
Hold on, I might give you a second round, but is there anyone who has not spoken who wishes to be heard on this public hearing? Can you do it quickly, Ron?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing to what you said. So there was someone who did make an offer for the property to the owners. You don't have a willing seller. So I don't see any way around getting that property out of their possession unless the county takes it. We've also reached out to the county to see if they would be interested in taking it in the condition that it's in, and they weren't interested in doing that, to seize it, because the taxes at the county haven't been paid in 3 years. So we tried to work out with them, but, you know, they're not in the business of making deals like that, where they would repossess it or take ownership of it away from the unwilling sellers and then sell it at the county. They have protocol that they have to follow. So we did try, and that property is worth well over $150. So you're not going to sterilize it with these improvements. It's waterfront, it's got a canal, it's in a nice neighborhood. So I don't think that should be too much of a concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
All right, anyone else? All right, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Scalera, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Oh,
public
yeah.
hearing number
to see
2.
All right, we are now a full board as Councilman Bouvier has joined us. So we'll move on to public hearing number 2. Cindy, would you read the hearing notice?
Sure. Public hearing number 2, to consider the acquisition of lands of Larson Estate, Hampton Bays, and amend the CPF Management Stewardship Plan to include property.
All right. I'll ask Mary Wilson, our CPF coordinator, to introduce us.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Schneiderman, members of the Town Board. Svea and Sve Larson purportedly hold a life estate, and Johan Larson and Patricia Jeske own fee title of approximately 5.4 acres in the hamlet of Hampton Bays, located on Bellows Terrace, and further identified by Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-256-1, Lot 14. This property is designated in the Village Hamlet Green Parks Recreation Open Space Target Area of the CPF project plan. The Water Quality Improvement Advisory Committee, as well as the Division of Long Range Planning, determined that it's appropriate to acquire this land with the fairly new 20% portion of CPF monies, which are for water quality improvement projects. This parcel is appropriate for future neighborhood sewage treatment plant purposes, which is an eligible project for CPF water quality funds. The landowner has expressed a willingness to sell this land to the town of Southampton at the negotiated purchase price of $900,000, and the source of funding is the CPF water quality improvement project funding.
Okay, any questions? Mary, would you just point it out on the
Certainly.
poster there? So you can see that it's surrounded by quite a density of housing, which makes it a good future site for a community sewage treatment facility.
And very close to the bay.
Very close to the bay.
Mary, do you have the taxes, the consequencing taxes?
Taxes,
What comes out, yeah, for the property?
approximately $6,000, but
Thank
we're
you.
still pilot payments.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Mary? All right, thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on this possible acquisition by the town? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that hearing is closed. Madam Clerk, if you'll read the third public hearing notice.
Public hearing number 3 on the acquisition of lands of JAB 1 Ferry Road LLC, JAB 3 Ferry Road LLC, and JAB 5 Ferry Road LLC, Sag Harbor, and amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include properties.
Okay, thank you, Sunday. Mary, I'd like you to introduce this as well.
JAB 135 Ferry Road LLCs are the purported owners of approximately 1.25 acres of land located on Ferry Road in the village of Sag Harbor and further identified by Suffolk County Tax Map Number 90322, Lot 4.3, Lot 6, part of Lot 4.2, and part of Lot 5.1. These properties are identified in the Village Hamlet Green Parks Recreation Open Space Target Area of the CPF project plan as appropriate sites for park and recreation purposes. These properties will be delivered vacant to the town, and the Village of Sag Harbor will enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the town in order for the village to develop and maintain an improved waterfront park at the site, known locally as the John Steinbeck Waterfront Park. Management and stewardship of the property will be the responsibility of the village. Prior to acquisition, a portion of the existing property will be appended to the adjacent private land, so that the town is acquiring 1.25 acres of the total approximate 1.7 acres of the properties. The landowner has expressed a willingness to sell this land to the town of Southampton at the negotiated purchase price of $10,500,000, and the source of funding is the Community Preservation Fund.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mary? So this is what community knows as Steinbeck Park, potentially, the future site of Steinbeck Park, and we have a negotiated purchase price of it's $10.5 million, I think.
That's
You
correct.
said, to acquire it with the understanding that the village will construct the park, maintain the park at no cost to the town, and open to all town residents. All right. All right, I know there's a number of people here who came for this, so if there's no further questions for Mary, we'll go to the public. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard? We'll start with Mayor Schroeder. Hi,
Good
Senator.
afternoon. I'm Mayor Schroeder from Sag Harbor. I'm here with three of my trustees to thank the town supervisor and all the town council for support on our project and all the public and private people who are supporting our project too. Thank you.
Can I ask you before you said, You know, the town got involved recently in something somewhat similar in another village, and
Yes.
they still haven't built the park that they promised. So we laid out quite a bit of money for a piece of property in Southampton Village. What's your timeframe? Should we move forward with this, which I hope that we do? When will we see the park being constructed?
We are starting meetings about that next month, August. With this rendering, the one thing that is different is this dock is not going to be the same. It's not even going to be there. But other than that, it's going to be a peaceful, it's not going to be a big structural thing. It's the development and design and that type of stuff we're working on that now.
Could you tell us what is likely to be there?
We have different people to work on committees about that. The one thing most everybody has said is they'd like a little amphitheater type thing. And that's what that was initially with like a clam or scallop shell type design. I'm told we have to have a bathroom. I would like a big anchor there to represent the whalers. I mean, we are a whaling community. That is what we were mostly famous for. We're looking to have a literary walkway with a sculpture type thing for John Steinbeck and his dog sitting on a bench. That's already in the works. It's actually built.
What was John Steinbeck's connection to this?
The famous author who with the Pulitzer Prize in Sag Harbor.
Was he living in Sag Harbor? Is that?
Yes, he was. And actually, he has a gazebo in his yard. We thought we'd put on a lot of black clothes and outfits and try to steal because he's not there anymore to sign it over, you know? So if you hear that, it might be true. But we wanted to represent a bunch of different factions in our area. That's why I'm thinking anchor for whalers and things such as that. The writers, everything, because everybody has been part of this, and it's a way to
So
show
picnic tables
appreciation.
and benches and things like that?
Oh, yes, and I've been asked.
Playground? No playground?
We weren't really so much as looking at a playground, but it's all up in the air. It's
Because sometimes when we do these things, we do it pursuant to some sort of park plan or some kind of understanding of what will happen there. So I want to have some clarification because of this other situation I'm going through with Southampton Village, which they do tell me they are going to put the park in that they promised to put in.
Well, we're looking to have it as a connection to Long Wharf, which is, under the bridge on the other side, because we're building a walkway around Long Wharf that'll go up in one form of another under the bridge and come through, because the bridge is over here.
Sure.
And come through this way back towards Main Street. Eventually, we want that walkway going much further into our village, along our waterfront on the other side, but that's not for this, and things such as that. Structures, the only thing we have specifically pretty much all agreed to, because we have the sewer all already in place there,
It's a bathroom.
from what's there, is a bathroom, a bathhouse type thing. Because it's going to be a beach, people can sit on the beach and get dirty, people are going to want to go use facilities, go wash up or whatever, and
Okay.
that's why we agreed to that.
So there'll be a beach there you can lie out on?
Yeah, there
Okay.
actually is sort of now,
Okay.
but Yep.
Any shaded pavilions, any gazebos, anything like that?
only the one we want to steal, and that would be part of the
Okay.
the
Oh, that one.
literary walkway
Okay,
with,
right, right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that type
Any
of.
other questions for the mayor of the good village of Sag Harbor?
We're not all crooks, but it would be a
I
nice
say the
thing to
good
have.
village. The good village, is it?
No,
Not the stealing village of Sag
no,
Harbor.
not that kind.
The good village.
If you had your choice, what would be the time frame on the construction of this?
Me?
Yeah.
It would have been done by now.
Well-
Come on.
We're working on it.
Well, I'm hoping to have it begun
And I'm not
early
telling you that, I'm just
2019.
for a-
I'd like to at least, we're going to have to start with demolition of those buildings with some of the same issues you guys just went through. And that's going to be the starting point. We're
Well,
looking
hold on
to...
that thought. I thought we're buying
Yeah.
this cleared of all buildings. So I don't think you'll have any demolition to do, because I think that's a subject. Mary, can you step forward for a second for clarification?
The derelict buildings are...
My understanding is we don't take this property until we've done an environmental audit, until we've done
Correct.
and they've done full demolition.
Sellers are going to remove the buildings.
By when they do their project. Well, that's good to know. Thank you very much. Okay, good. So then we actually could start with walkways relatively quickly. And we're looking to reuse existing materials, not from here, but we have a lot of builders, and our landscape architect has a way of finding things and getting things, and just have it natural. A lot of it will be natural.
Right.
Not
Interesting
stealing.
village.
No, he really, he would tell you if he was going to steal something.
Well, that's polite.
Okay.
That's satire.
Maybe we need to put that in the
You guys should stop asking questions.
No. He works with a lot of builders
ask
he
them.
knows would like to help and things like that, and that's all that it would be.
There's sundry things inside. All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Before you self-incriminate.
Any further?
Long gone.
All right, who else would like to speak? Yes, please step forward. All right, trustee LaRocco. Jim, if you could.
Jim LaRocca, trustee of the village. I just want to supplement a couple of the answers to the questions you asked about our plan. You all know Sag Harbor. The vision for this piece is that it connects under the bridge, as it does now, by the way, into what is called Windmill Park. The wharf is very close to beginning the remaking of the wharf. We have important structural and then cosmetic finishes to accomplish on the wharf. We don't show it on here, but next over, after this cluster of buildings, is Marine Park, and that continues to some public space, the Sag Harbor Yacht Club, Breakwater Yacht Club, the last remaining working shipyard, boatyard in the village proper, with a long history. There are some marinas further over. So we see this as part of a continuum of the waterfront. And when you go west, there's a house or two, a restaurant, and then all the way to the edge of the village, there is open space and marinas. And so it completes a picture of a waterfront that has evolved from an old commercial fishing industrial waterfront to one that's devoted to recreation and enjoyment. The owner, current owner, there's been a succession of owners in this history, the owner has revised, the new owner has revised plans for only 3 townhouses here. At one time, there was a proposal of as many as 20 condominiums. And my recollection of those plans is they look like Soviet housing. So we've come a very long way to improve the waterfront. There are 2 buildings, one of which is concrete, the other is frame. The process that's underway for the details of what will go there is being managed by a very well-known landscape architect, Ed Hollander, who's in our community. And we have approached both the federal government and the state government about planning and design money. And we have laid a lot of groundwork for that, but until the acquisition occurs, the way those statutes are written, we are not eligible, we who developed this, until the ownership has been assured, that the owner has no longer in private ownership to come into public ownership, and then the planning and design categories open up to us. So we are active already with that. The number of ideas that we hear are enough to fill Central Park. That's how much enthusiasm there is in the community. And the people who have have been donating time and interest and who expect to be donors of landscaping materials and natural materials for walkways and so forth, is already an active discussion. So I would say that the timetable, recall that we have this process is underway in the village with regard to those 3 townhouses. So there'll be a certain necessity, if they win approvals, to coordinate any kind of construction activity on the waterfront, not to disrupt our summer. So we have part of the planning, all of that. But see it in your mind's eye at this point as completing well, you all know how Greenport evolved. There's an element of that to what you see here, which is a section of Greenport that's now given over to a park, had been the subject of older industrial and commercial activity. It was contested for many, many years. A park plan finally emerged, and it's become a centerpiece of the town. This will be a centerpiece of the completion of this new waterfront.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Any questions for Jim?
Yeah,
Okay.
is the
Councilman
permitting
Aguilar?
process for the townhouses that you mentioned, is that contingent upon development of the park in some way?
The boards are proceeding each independently under their own authorities.
Right.
We have planning, which is serving as the lead agency, ARB, our Architectural Review Board, zoning and ZBA,
This is
and the waterfront, the Harbor Committee, all have a role in the consideration of the townhouse proposals. And they are all taking account of the relationship of those potential houses to this park, so that the planning and design, as we've seen it revised now a number of times, for all of this, takes account of that it will be a neighbor to a full-blown park. And that schedule, I don't know the details of it offhand, but it's a process we use, and I presume is used here as well. All of the boards are involved. It's a complex project, and so they have, under the aegis of the planning board, have a combined process for evaluating the EAF and all the other steps that are going on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good afternoon, Town Supervisor and trustees. Town trustees, my name is Jane Young, and I'm a board member of a 501c4 all-volunteer organization called Save Sag Harbor. It's our honor and pleasure to be here today. I'm joined by fellow board members Bob Weinstein and Hillary Loomis. We're coming here today in celebration. We're so happy about this. We have 2,000 members strong who have been supporting this initiative since 2008. We've worked hard since 2008 with 3 or 4 different developers, 3 different mayors, to represent the interests of the citizens of Sag Harbor in having this wonderful, wonderful extension and access to our waterfront, which is so absolutely precious to us. Another thing we're most grateful for, the CPF help. We've donated a lot over the years, or given a lot over the years, and we're really happy to be receiving that CPF back to us in a way that's so meaningful. Just by way of history, I want to acknowledge that in 2008, a Sag Harbor citizen named Molly Duganis started something called Save Our Waterfront, and it was about this park. And then Save Sag Harbor stepped in and took over the effort. We've been sued. The village has been sued. This has not been an easy thing to accomplish in our little community. So you can just imagine I'm sorry, I have a cold. You could just imagine how happy we are to really see this in sites. We really have supported Mayor Schroeder, Trustee Jim LaRocca in particular, and the other trustees in, and with the support of our membership in seeing this forward. So we're glad you all listened. We're glad you found the money to do it. And we really look forward to all working together to make this happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Michael Daly, and I'm a full-time resident of Sag Harbor and have been for at least 20 years. And I agree that today is a day to celebrate. I think if there was any reason why the Community Preservation Fund was ever formed, it was for moments like this. And I'd like to thank the coalition of farmers and realtors and builders and community leaders who got together to actually create the Community Preservation Fund. This is clearly the gateway to Sag Harbor. I live in North Haven, so I travel that bridge at least 2 to 10 times a day. Thousands and thousands of cars come across it, especially in the season. And I grew up in Queens, and when I saw the earlier renderings for what was proposed for there, I was like, oh my God, it's going to be like driving over the Kosciuszko Bridge into Greenpoint, Brooklyn. So I'm grateful and appreciate you stepping up and dedicating this amount of funds to this project, because I think it will preserve a vista and a sense. Even if we just take the stuff out of there now and make grass there, it'll make me happy. And I've already dedicated my time, my talent, and my treasure to this project, and I'll continue doing it until we're done, because it's that meaningful. So thank you so much for stepping up and committing to this project. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Mary? One second.
I'd like to clarify some comments made by Trustee LaRocca in response to Councilman Scavoni's question regarding whether the development of condominiums to the west of the parkland parcel are related. They cannot be related, and the town's acquisition of this land for a park must be independent and cannot be considered, because it's the same owner of both pieces, cannot be considered in the village's boards and agencies in their consideration for condo development. They must look at the projects independently. Thank you.
Anyone else who has? Yes, Mary's just clarifying the record. I understand. So there's no confusion. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard who has not yet spoken?
Sure. This piece of property was a fishing station as a kid, but
Councilman Scavone, do you want to speak one more time? I'm sorry.
I was going to.
It could be
I'll wait.
If it's as brief as possible. I normally do not allow a second round, so.
I don't love this process of speaking in public, so I'll be brief. I just wanted to say another aspect of this process was the first plans by the first East End Ventures. I think someone, maybe it was Jim LaRocca, referred to, oh no, it was Michael Daly, who talked about the wall. No, maybe it was Jim. Anyway, there was a proposed drawing for the buildings that were going to go in there. And they were so tall, they were going to block the view of the municipal building, which is Sag Harbor's skyline. And that was just a horrible thing. And we all learned about what a view shed was and how the view shed is protected in the LWRP in Sag Harbor. So this whole process of what this means again to the village, and the fact that we're going to have buildings in there that are more in scale, not taking up as much of the property, is just such a blessing for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Scavone.
So, almost as important as what's going in there, the park, is what's not going in there. And These were owned privately, and they had a as of right, they could develop the property into townhouses or condominiums, and those drawings were pretty scary. Now, whether or not they would have come to fruition, we don't know. But that property was always available to the public, going back to the 1960s, which is what I remember when it was a fishing station, Remkes's fishing station. There was a restaurant down there and a professional building, but you could always walk down to that park and get under the bridge and walk around. So it was, I'm very happy that this will remain or will be transferred into public ownership and stay that way into perpetuity. I would like to welcome two other members of the Sag Harbor Village Board. This is Trustee O'Donnell, who is here, and our newest trustee in Sag Harbor, Trustee Gardella, as well, and I urge the board to support this purchase.
Can I ask, if there's no one else to speak, and Mary, can I ask you one technical question? Because the village would be doing structural improvements onto a town-owned piece of property, are we required to, when we acquire this, list them as a co-owner?
No, they're going to be the,
Like a licensee or?
A licensee?
yeah, and they actually could also sub-license if they.
So they'll be allowed to spend public funds
Certainly.
on our property?
Certainly.
Under the license agreement?
Yes, and our intermunicipal agreement allows that.
Right,
You
similar to
concur?
what we were, as you brought up the Southampton Village and other projects I've done throughout Long Island where the town or the county has purchased a property and then another entity, whether it's a municipality or not-for-profit, has developed the property.
Right, we're doing that in Riverside on the county piece of land where we're improving a trail and
Sure. No, yeah,
lighting. Okay,
that's
thank
right,
you.
that's exactly it.
So, if there's no one else who wishes to be heard, I'd like to make a motion to close this. I'll make a motion to close. Second?
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we have two more public hearings, and then what I'd like to do, I think they'll be relatively quick, so everybody stick around, and we'll take that resolution to acquire the property for Steinbeck Park, and also the resolution on the demolition of the home and bulkhead on Pine Neck Boulevard.
215 Long Neck.
I'm sorry, Long Neck. 215 Long Neck. We'll take those both out of order so that you don't have to sit through our whole meeting. All right? So, Madam Clerk, if you read the fourth public hearing notice?
Public hearing number 4, to consider amending Town Code, Chapter 123, Building Construction, to revise the definition of floor area in Article 8, Innovative and Alternative On-Site Wastewater Treatment Systems.
All right, thank you. So Kathleen Murray from our Town Attorney's Office, our Deputy Town Attorney, will introduce this.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good afternoon, members of the Town Board. On July 25th, 2017, by local law number 17 of 2017, the Town Board added Article 8 to the Building Code, requiring innovative and alternative on-site wastewater treatment systems for particular residential projects. Specifically, the code requires IA systems in high-priority areas under 3 circumstances. 1, all new residential construction. 2, any substantial septic system upgrade required by the Suffolk County Department of Health Services. And 3, where there is an increase of 25% or more in the floor area of a building. This last trigger, that is an increase in 25% or more of the floor area of a building, has required a new system, a new IA system, in those cases where homeowners seek to convert an existing living space, such as a basement, into a gym or a playroom or other benign area that doesn't require any increase in sanitary flow. So the purpose of this legislation, if the board is so inclined, is to exempt the conversion of an existing space from the requirement that an IA system be installed in those cases where that conversion does not require a septic system upgrade required by the Suffolk County Department of Health Services. If you're so inclined to do that, the amendment would be accomplished before you by adding language to the definition of floor area. I do have the Chief Building Inspector here if you have any questions that I can't answer.
Will this additional language create any other conflicts ahead or change anything in other provisions of the town code?
I don't think so. Article 8 of Chapter 123 does have its own definition section. So we did define floor area separately here.
So it's, this definition of floor area is specific to this section of the code?
Correct.
Okay.
As it stands right now, it does mimic the definition in Chapter 123, but now it would be changed so that it was a little bit different, again, just for Article 8 as it relates to IA systems. If
You
the
know,
board
having
is
been
inclined.
involved in the initial legislation to create this mandate or requirement for these IA systems, when we talked about, you know, substantial additions, we were talking about 25% more floor area. I was thinking more in terms of footprint, if you're adding an addition to your home, not the conversion of a basement. So they, if that basement is being converted to usable space, like, now if it's bedroom space, it could still trigger then.
Correct. And I hear you. The definition of floor area now actually says the actual occupied area. So while some of you might have thought in terms of increasing in footprint, it does currently get captured if you're converting an existing space.
Into bedrooms.
Correct.
But it is also
well-
getting captured if you're just creating a living room,
Right.
a
Now, if you add more
exercise
bedrooms,
area.
right, if you add more bedrooms down there, Suffolk County Health Department will trigger, and then you won't be able to do it.
But it's
without
still,
employees.
you might be able to do it. It still goes down to the 25%, right? So let's say part of it is going to be an exercise area and part of it's going to be a bedroom. If that bedroom area is less than a 25% trigger, you still would not be required, correct?
My answer to that is you'd only be required if Suffolk County Health Department requires you to.
Still may.
It still may
Still may,
trigger
if they add,
because
Four-bedroom
if the health
threshold
department
with the
says
health
you now
department.
need to expand your septic system.
Correct.
And they're the ones who make that determination.
Right. They may not, if it's, let's say it's a three-bedroom house and now it's becoming a four-bedroom house, they might not
Correct.
do that. When you hit five, though, it might. Okay. All
So
right.
I understand that this was in response to many constituent questions to the chief building inspector, and that's why it's being proposed.
Okay. Any other questions for Kathleen? All right. Thank you, Kathleen. Mr. Benacasa, did you want to weigh in here? You're the one managing all of this. Chief Building Inspector Michael Benacasa.
Good afternoon. My concern was that some of these projects were being completed without building permits. And we get into an issue of health and safety where basements are being finished. It's one of our areas where we have people doing things without permits.
Sure.
It's inside the building, you're not out being seen, so you're kind of behind closed doors. So they get converted quite often without permits and without egress, secondary means of egress, which is really unsafe, where if there's a fire up in the main part of the house, you're in the basement, no secondary means of egress, you have a tough time getting out without getting hurt.
So your concern was that it would lead to even more people converting
we have-
basements without permits?
When we
because of
first
this trigger.
started the requirement with the IA systems, we were getting quite a few people coming with finished basements. It's tapered off, and I suspect that's because the word is out that if you're going to finish your basement, it's a 25% expansion, and mostly, it is all the time, they're doing them without permits. Because even though there's a rebate, and we're going to hopefully increase that to $20,000, from what I'm hearing, the cost is upwards of $30,000 to $35,000 plus landscaping. So it's still a chunk of money out of their pockets. And these aren't normally the big McMansions that we're talking. These are people, working people in the community that need the room without putting an addition on is the cheapest way to get additional space. And they're the folks that are feeling the brunt of this. So I think this is needed relief. And again, if they are going to add bedrooms and the house was CO'd prior to 1973, and it's any increase in the number of bedrooms, the health department's going to make them do it. So we'll get it that way, but I think it's really needed relief.
All right, thank you. Questions for the Chief Building Inspector? Thank you, Michael.
Thanks.
All right, anyone else who wishes to be heard? All right. make a motion. John, it's actually, you're the co-lead sponsor, right? Do you want to close it?
I'll close it.
All right, it's a motion to close by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, actually, I'll make the
Yeah,
second,
we have
I'll second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if you read the last public hearing notice?
Public hearing number 5, to consider amending Town Code, Chapter 177, Septic System Rebate and Incentive Program to revisit various provisions of the program.
All right, Kathleen Murray?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. On August 22nd, 2017, by local law number 22 of 2017, this town board amended Town Code Chapter 177 in its entirety as it relates to the Septic System Rebate and Incentive Program. Specifically, the town board updated the rebate legislation in an effort to offset the cost of IA system upgrades now required under Town Code Chapter 123, which we just discussed. 1 year later, having had the opportunity to observe and manage the new rebate and incentive program, the purpose of this local law is to amend those sections of Chapter 177 that may need reconsideration, adjustment, or improvement. There are currently 4 changes proposed for your review in the local law. The first is the expansion of the rebate eligibility to those areas outside of the high and medium priority area where the Conservation Board or the Environment Division has required an IA system pursuant to Town Code Chapter 325. And that is accomplished by amending the definition of eligible area.
Okay.
The second proposed change is an expansion of the rebate program based on an individual's income level. Currently, as you can see on page 2 of the proposed legislation, eligibility for a rebate is categorized into 3 income provisions. That is, if you earn less than $300,000 a year, you can receive up to 100% of the cost of an IA system installation. If you make between $300,000 and $500,000, you can seek up to 50% of the costs of the installation of an IA system, and over $500,000 is currently ineligible for a rebate. The proposal before you would allow a rebate for those persons now making between $500,000 and $1 million to seek up to 25% of the costs of an installation of IA system, and over $1 million would now be ineligible. The third proposed change seeks to increase the maximum rebate allowable from $15,000 to $20,000. And the fourth change proposed seeks to expand the time frame within which rebate monies are encumbered for an applicant from 6 months to 12 months, which is something that the CPF administrator has indicated has been a little bit of an issue. Are there any questions?
All right,
that I can-
questions for Ms.
I have
Murray?
one quick one. Did we have
Councilwoman Lofstad?
people making over 500,000 that decided not to do it because they weren't getting a rebate?
I can't answer that for you. I can only tell you that I know some people have approached other town board members. Unfortunately, Mary had to leave, so I can't answer that for you as I stand here. I know the supervisor has been approached. I was in a meeting where we were approached by an individual.
And that was a recommendation that was made to our group in that regard.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, some of these rebates are people who are voluntarily upgrading their systems. They're not mandated to, but they want to do the right thing, and a little bit of incentive maybe will tip the scale. Encourage them to do that. Any other questions for Ms. Murray? Thank you, Kathleen.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Okay, is there anyone who wishes to be heard on this public hearing?
So-
Seeing none, we'll make a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Motion to close by Councilman Bouvier,
Second?
seconded by Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that's closed. So we're going to move on to town board resolutions, and as I said, I'd like to make a motion to take some out of order. Oh, we have public portion, yes, thank you.
You can take the resolutions.
We could do the resolutions before public portion. How many people wish to be heard in public portion? Is there anybody?
Frank can wait.
You okay, Vince? All right, so, all right. Then let's take these two out of order. So, why don't we start on page 17, Resolution 700. That's the Long Neck Boulevard, the 215 Long Neck Boulevard. I'll make a motion to take that out of order.
Second.
This is Resolution 700 of 2018, seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let me just turn to page 17. All right, so this is co-sponsored by the entire town board. It's to authorize the town of Southampton to remove unsafe, dangerous, and improperly maintained conditions at the premises located at 215 Long Neck Boulevard, Flanders, New York.
Second.
I'll make a motion, seconded by, I'm sorry?
Second.
Councilwoman Scalera. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, abstentions? Okay, approved. You know, and just, you know, is Richard Howard still here?
Yes.
He left, but all right, we'll make sure he takes care of the exterminations and those.
Oh, sure,
things.
yeah, we'll follow up on all that.
Okay, I thought that would go quick. All right, so now I'd like to make a motion, to take Resolution 712 of 2018 out of order. It's found on page 32 of your packet. This is on the Steinbeck Park property.
Second?
Second by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so let me turn to page 32. And, Madam Clerk, I think Councilman Scavone had asked to be placed as a co-sponsor on this. I don't.
712?
On
Yes.
712.
Okay.
All right, so this is 712 of 18, authorizes the acquisition of lands of JAB 1 Ferry Road LLC, JAB 3 Ferry Road LLC, JAB 5 Ferry Road LLC in Sag Harbor, and amends the community CPF management and stewardship plan to include those properties. Seconded by Councilman Schiavone.
Second?
On the motion, I know you guys are ready to celebrate, so I'm not going to delay it long, other than I'm really happy to be a part of this. I think this has been a long time in coming. I really appreciate how the town board has worked with the village, and appreciate your patience in making sure that we get it right. We've been very careful, and we have a new property owner that added a kind of a complication as it shifted from one to another. But I have found this property owner very agreeable and easy to work with, and wanting to see this park and wanting to do the right thing. And so I think this is going to have a really happy ending for the village of Sag Harbor. And it's nice, you know, it is true. We hear it a lot, how that the Sag Harbor community village brings in a lot of CPF revenue. It is nice to find opportunities to do things in the village. Don't have as much open space as some other areas might, but certainly contribute with your high property values to the CPF fund. This is not the last thing we're doing in Sag Harbor. There is hopefully more good things ahead, but this is an exciting one. And the only thing I will ask is that the board moves expeditiously in creating this park, that it just doesn't sit as an empty parcel, largely empty, but there is public access to it and amenities there to benefit everybody.
And maybe keep us apprised of your progress. I'd like to sort of, maybe we could have a work session at some point, and you could sort of show us how you're proceeding. I'd just be really interested in following that.
And Tommy John, did you want to say anything? I know you have a lot of history here on this.
Well, I certainly would volunteer on any developing or interest groups or charrettes or anything that we do to develop the park, on behalf of the town and a resident of North Haven and, the Sag Harbor area. But I'm very happy about this for the reasons that I stated earlier.
Anyone else?
Don't want to keep them waiting.
They're ready to uncork the champagne here.
Keep drawing this out longer and longer.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Approved. Congratulations. That was to take it out of order, or that was to approve? All right, hold on.
Wait a minute.
All right, hold on 1 second.
Wait,
This one technical thing. That was like, I thought we made the motion to take it out of order and voted on that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, we did?
We did?
Okay,
We did.
never
There was a
mind.
lot of time in between, I'm sorry.
Yes, we did the two motions. That was a motion to approve. Okay, you guys can celebrate. You're good. Same motion, same second on the motion to take it out of order. Okay? Congratulations, everybody. All right.
Sorry.
a good one.
We did take it out. We
I
did.
think we
make-
did. We did. Yeah.
We did.
We're just talking a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, a long time lag.
Philip was. It was
We
blustery.
did. You have the record of both.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it, thank you.
All right, so now to public portion. So, Vince, you want to speak first? All right.
Good afternoon, Supervisor, members of the board. My name is Vince Taladone. I'm the co-chair of the Economic Development Committee for the Flanders Riverside Northampton Community Association. Here today, basically, just to be here if there are any questions regarding Resolution 705, which is the second application by Franca for a state environmental justice grant to further the development of the Riverside Maritime Trail Park and its shoreline restoration project. Basically, it takes the next step after the concept plan is complete and brings it to a point where those documents and engineering plans can be bid out for construction. And that's a substantial cost in any major construction project, and there is no local match required under environmental justice. So we think it's a great fit, maximum $100,000 award, and they have encouraged us to apply because they actually like the first project that we are right in the middle of.
You're applying to the...
It's DEC Environmental Justice Program.
Okay. Any questions for Vince? Thank you for taking this on, taking a leadership role, being our community, not-for-profit sponsor of this.
Thank you.
We need that.
And we need the town's support too, so it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you, Vince.
Thanks, Vince.
All right, Mr. Fisher?
I just want to speak in support of two resolutions. That's one of them. The work that Vince has put in on these grant applications, it's indescribable for Franca. And to have your support in a resolution is very helpful too. The first project that we were awarded last year, thanks to Vince's efforts, is going underway now, and it's going really well. So we're looking to continue to build the money for this program. So please support that. Second is a contract that's on here to enter into with the Butterfly Effect Project for some community outreach. They've come to Franca regularly, and she's given presentations on different housing opportunities, programs that the town and the county has, that different banks have. She's an incredible community advocate. I also set her up with some small business owners who we got our employees together, and she gave the same talk. So she's willing to think outside the box and help educate the community and the programs, the grants, everything that the town has to offer to make it easier to live here. So she's an incredible partner, and I think that I hope you enter into that contract.
She being...
The Butterfly Effect Project.
Just say her name.
Oh,
Tijuana.
Tijuana Fulford. Yeah, she's remarkable, and I think a great champion for the program that the contract refers to. Next is, you're supporting a resolution today to hire auditors for 2 ambulance districts. One of them is the Flanders Northampton Volunteer Ambulance. I'm on the board there. We had a meeting on Sunday. There were just some, not concerns, but more confusion on how that audit will take place, if it's a LoSAP audit, if it's a financial audit.
It's a LoSAP audit.
It's a LoSAP audit. Okay. And then who will be responsible at the ambulance barn to work with the auditors? Has any of those details been worked out yet, or will that come after the
Well,
contract?
there'll be a company, they will reach out to
Okay.
you guys, to the board of directors there, and
Okay.
you guys will provide them whatever they need.
Okay, thank you. That's everything. Thanks for all your support.
We're
Another,
just, making sure, it's kind of a routine audit to make sure that all the proper procedures for accounting for LoSAP credit are being followed.
okay,
And we're doing it to all 4 districts that we are commissioners for. So we just decided to do 2 this year, and we'll do, I think, 2 next year.
I think when the press covered it, they let it be led that it was a financial audit, not a LoSAP audit. So there was confusion, and then the resolution didn't really specify what was being
It's
audited.
not a financial, you still are required to give us your yearly audited financial statements.
Yeah, which we pay for on our own and
Yes.
prepare.
Right.
Okay, so this is for LoSAP.
This is simply a LoSAP audit.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay, anyone else for public portion? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
I'm sorry, Vince?
I have a second issue. Can I?
Yeah, come on up quick.
Unrelated. I'm sorry, Vince Taldon again from Franca. I do this every so many months over the past 4 or 5 years or more, trying to get a problem for a constituent of our association, a member of our association, solved. It relates to 75 Elm Avenue, a road at the end of which Janice Artandi, Neil Young, two very active members of our community, live. There was a long-term battle over whether or not it is a town road or a private road. The Highway Department several years back just changed the definition in the road book without a town board resolution to make it not a town road, but it's not a private road either. So now they are landlocked, they have no road, they have no legal egress from their property, trees are growing up, the lights are still there from the old, right-of-way of the utilities, water, sewer, not sewer, water, electric cable, everything is there. The road continues to crumble, they can't get out in the winter, and I cannot get our town attorney, and not you individually, forgive me for saying that, but for over many years, to actually give us a decision on whether it is a town road, whether it's a private road, and also whether the Highway Department has the right to change the highway book without a town board resolution. We've asked you many, many times. I've never, ever gotten an answer. The last attorney has signed the project, left. No one could find his records, so supposedly the file was being rebuilt. Now I hope a year later it's rebuilt and someone has actually read it. That's my hope. But next winter, Janice and Neil again will be sitting in their home without the ability to get out of the place. Their car has to be parked out on the main road because there's no way to get from their house to a public street of any kind, private or.
What's the issue with the road? It gets flooded, or?
It's just worn away. The town has always said it's not.
Oh, it's just in
Town-
such disrepair that it's not drivable? Jim, are you?
Part of Elm is an open road. To the naked eye, it's an open road, and then 75 is about 3 or 4 lots down a dirt road. I mean, the road physically ends, and then a building permit was issued for 75 Elm on a unpaved, non-public road is how the building permit and the COs read. I did speak with Vince last winter. I did go out.
Oh,
you had called one, yeah, and I had gone to the site myself and actually saw that the Highway Department had plowed, but then there was actually an area of the plow that was cut through so they could actually access their home. But it's and I have spoke with the highway superintendent about it. He does, as Mrs. Tadone says, he feels that it is a non-public road. I can check further on it, but
How is that determined, whether something is a public road, or is there a
generally,
deed on the road?
Yeah, generally how the subdivisions were originally mapped out, and whether the entire road was dedicated as a public road, or whether it was ever accepted. Usually, in the subdivision maps, as a continuing offer of dedication of the roads to the town. And it looks like here, from the naked eye at least, that part of the road was improved to a point where the town accepted the road as a dedicated road, and then part of the road, the eastern portion of this road, and I think some of the other parallel roads along Long Neck Boulevard, as you travel down north on Long Neck, these roads kind of feed off to the right, and some of the
So
roads.
it may be town-owned. Is that what you're saying?
The right-of-ways.
But not brought up to highway standards?
So we didn't take it.
Right, so there was probably never
Take it into
a possibility that's portion of Elm and a portion of some of the other roads were never accepted by the town into the town highway system.
So when we don't accept them, their ownership remains in private hands?
Right, exactly.
So
I think
we
that
only
might be the
accept it
situation.
when it meets highway standards?
Sure, if you have, if it's a subdivision map or there's a map, and then the highway superintendent won't accept them until they're brought up to standards. Typically, certainly on any new subdivisions, that's the way it is. If it was something, sometimes you get in the gray area where it's something that was happened 60, 70 years ago and how that evolved. And,
So we never got a definitive answer on this?
I'll check again.
Whether the town took it or did not take
Yeah,
it?
my understanding from the highway department and the feeling is that it is a non-public road, but I'll certainly look into it again.
All of it, or just that portion?
No,
that's
just
not paved?
yeah, right, exactly. The first part of it, clearly, if you're, like I said, if you're heading down Long Neck Boulevard, you make a right on Elm, it's clearly a public road for a certain portion, and then it ends. And this house that Vince is talking about is about 3 or 4 lots in. It's kind of by itself, you know. But,
It is. And if I may add, the definition in the old road book which I still consider the current road book, since the town board has never changed it, said that it was a terrible definition. It said the public road, the town road, ends at the dead end, which, if you look at all the side streets there, at the end of wherever the road is that drops down into the wetlands, there's a dead end sign. So Janice and Neil's house is right there at that point, where beyond that it drops into wetlands. So theoretically, it is the dead end. However, that wasn't a very helpful definition. So the new definition says it ends at such and such address, which is 4 lots, I think it's east of where they are. So clearly the new road book says that it is not a town road, but it's not listed as a private road either. And since they own no right-of-way as a driveway, they are not selling their house. But when they do, I don't know what will happen in terms of title, because there's no clear definition on what's in front of them. Also, the adjoining lots, most of them are owned by the county and the town as preservation properties, so they have no interest in improving the road. There's only one buildable lot there, and when that property owner comes forward and goes, would they go to road review to improve the road? If it's not a private road and it's not a public road, it's...
Is it broken up asphalt, or is it dirt?
There's remnants of what used to be asphalt. There's a line of power and light poles, because it's in the lighting district, and they ran lights down the street back in the day when the town paved it. But then Masterson, Chief Highway Superintendent Masterson, I believe, decided that it really wasn't a town road, so he stopped filling the potholes.
So it may be just basically a private driveway for 2 residents?
Except that's not how it's shown on the subdivision map or the deed.
No, I understand that, but it may be functioning that way. So have they looked at the cost of, let's say, grading it and maybe putting some gravel down or something?
They don't have any right to do that until somebody can clarify whether it is, they have an easement, an access easement. Is it a private road? What is it?
Have they brought that to our roads committee?
Yeah, it has. It's been through there before, and I think it's the same, exactly what Vince is describing. It just bounces back because no one was willing to commit to make a decision. And ultimately, as I understood it, was the highway superintendent's decision to decide it wasn't a road.
And do you know, when did the former highway superintendent stop paving it?
We're talking 15 years ago, at least.
All right,
Got a long history.
so it's kind of in limbo. So, I mean, it crosses several areas. We have liaisons to that area. We have liaisons to Highway Department. Is anybody particularly interested in trying to sort this matter out?
Yeah, Tom.
I mean,
I'm the liaison to the highway department. I will certainly ask our highway superintendent what
I know his opinion on this.
call was. I hope he's
All right,
watching this
so,
meeting right now,
so-
so he has a better understanding.
But I
Does
still-
it present as a flag lot? Like if you were to drive down to the end?
Well, not if you look at the map, because there are adjoining lots, and there is no, there's no right-of-way. There was never an easement, there was never a deeded anything. There's nothing in the subdivision map that shows that as anything other than a road, but I agree there's probably been a oops in the processing, because it was never dedicated, it was never taken over. It was originally maintained by the town, because they probably just did, and it was summer people mostly, so they didn't care much about winter snow removal. Now that there's permanent people down there, when they won't plow in the winter, and it's a terrible road, they can't get out. They leave their cars out on the main road. The house was built decades and decades ago. Nobody did this recently, but it needs to be solved. And I go back again and again to, someone needs to be able
All right,
to
so
tell me
Tommy's gonna,
whether a town
look into
road book can be amended by the highway superintendent without the approval of this board. And no one will ever tell me.
And so Tommy John's going to look into it.
Okay.
He'll be a liaison. He'll talk to Mr. Greger in Highway and talk to Mr. Burke and see if, and then update us and
And
let
I
us
welcome
know.
any input from the liaisons from the Flanders area, if they want to chip in,
Yeah,
Great.
Don't be shy.
It's just a nasty little problem that just never goes away.
Well, you know what?
Tommy John's trying to share this.
It's required to get the 3 people in the room.
He's getting a
Tom,
sinking feeling.
Alex,
Thank you.
Christine.
We can meet at the site
Thanks,
if you want.
Vince.
Thanks. Thank you, Vince. Anyone else for public portion? All right, I'll once again make the motion to close public portion.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor? Aye. Aye, okay, good. So now we're moving to the resolutions. All right, we start with 685 of 18, authorizing the supervisor to execute an agreement with Lexapol for online subscription for law enforcement policy manual online. Seconded by Councilwoman Scalera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 686 of 18, authorizing the supervisor to contract with AMIC E&E PC for environmental consulting services at the Damascus Road landfill site.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 687, authorizes the supervisor to sign a contract with Gentile Pismeni and Bringle LLP to perform independent audits of the ambulance districts within the town of Southampton.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Scalera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 218-688 to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with P.W. Grosser for the evaluation of existing leachate pump station and appurtenances.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman Lofstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 689 authorizes the supervisor to sign contract with the Butterfly Effect Project for community outreach and education services.
Second.
On the motion?
On the motion, yes, you wanted to amend it?
Yeah, I just was going to, actually, we don't have to amend it. I just wanted to make it clear, just because the first sentence, the first paragraph talks about the foreclosures, and then it doesn't go into it with any detail and talk about how they've been helping us over the last course of the year, and they've been part of our assistance program and giving guidance in that way. So just wanted to mention that. We don't have to actually formally amend it.
Yeah, I mean, it does reference the services.
Just at the
but,
end, yeah, but I thought it should be a little bit more.
And this is for not to exceed 22,000. All right, John, who seconded?
I second it.
All right, so I made a motion, it was seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 690, co-sponsored with Councilman Scalera. Authorize Historic District to submit a grant application for historic roadside marker at start-finish line of the Bridgehampton Road Races 1914 to 1921 on Main Street, Bridgehampton.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scalera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 691 to recall and amend Resolution 218-591 to sign a contract with Foxland Surveying for subdivision maps at Jagger Woods.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 2018-692, 2018 notice to bidders for highway signs, posts, and appurtenances. Excuse me.
Ordinances.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman Lofstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 693 is a 2018 notice to bidders for Meadowlark Lane road reconstruction.
Second.
This is the one that everything is here for. So, seconded by Councilwoman Scalera. Any discussion? This is, we're going out to bid.
I know there was a meeting that was held, I think, a week or two ago with Superintendent of Highways. Everything's been good?
Everything,
Took care of that.
yep.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good news.
We're hoping to get this done as
Thank you.
quickly as possible.
Yeah.
I know you've worked very hard. So, there's a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
You're welcome.
You can stay or go. It's up to you. You probably, it's a sunny summer day in the Hamptons. You have better places to be, so we understand. We won't be offended. 694 of 18 amends the 2018 adopted budget for the Community Preservation Fund.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 695 of 18 amends the 18 adopted budget for Flanders Ambulance District and West Hampton Ambulance District.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 696 of 18 amends 18 adopted budget for surveillance cameras.
Second?
This is on the streetlights.
I do have a question about
Yes,
this.
so we have a
I was
second
a-
by Councilman Lofstad.
I have a question.
On the motion, first Councilman Schiavone.
These these cameras are going to be in town parks only, is that correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
No, they're going
No?
to be parks and certain areas of, that the police
Major
needed.
highways?
Yeah, the police, we discussed this. That's why part of it, I think, is coming out of PD. If there's a question, then we maybe should ask Glenn, because I want to be clear in answering your question. Because I think we discussed this yesterday, and I'm not sure if it was just parks.
It does say parks and public safety.
As a matter of.
Yeah, I think there are other
Yeah, where
areas.
police identify,
And police
Downtown
ones.
areas.
It's the first resolve clause.
What do you want to do? Do you want to vote, or do we want to get clarification?
We can vote.
Everybody's okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yep.
All right. I made a motion. There was a second by
Me.
Councilman Losted. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. 697 of 18 authorizes the calling and prepayment of 2 open space preservation serial bonds, 2009. We discussed this at work session. They're callable bonds. We'll save money on interest by doing this. Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. On 698, I need to make a motion to amend. If you go into the walk-on packet, there's
The language at the end.
There's a page that inserts, and be it further resolved that the members of the committee shall be appointed by the town board, and the term of the members shall be for 1 year. So let me start by making a motion to amend 698 to insert that language.
Sorry, where are you now?
In the red packet, it says amendment to resolution number 2018-698. It's right after the walk-ons. Well, it's actually the first thing in the packet.
Got it.
Got it? Okay, so I'll make that motion to amend. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilman Lofsted. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's amended now. I'm going to make a motion to approve as amended.
Same second?
Same second. So let me just explain this. We've had great success with the opioid task force. So the idea of disbanding it, I'm not thrilled about, but it is also, we have, I think, 42 members. It's a very large committee. It's doing great things, but it was really set up, it had a very clear focus, was to deliver some easily implementable recommendations at the local level and at other levels as well. And, to gather public input, it has done all those things. So, some people say, well, why don't we just keep it going? Why don't we keep it going? Well, it's actually met the objectives of its creation. So the idea was basically now is to create an implementation committee and, sort of shrink it down to, healthcare professionals. If you look at the composition of this committee, which we're, by resolution, calling the Opioid Addiction and Recovery Committee, we're starting with 16 members, so it's a little bit more manageable. 6 healthcare professionals, 2 youth service professionals, 1 educator, 1 community representative, 1 representative from Narcotics Anonymous, 2 family members of victims, 1 law enforcement representative, 1 clergy member, 1 high school student or recent graduate. Could we add more? I suppose a lot of people have already, not a lot, but some people have said they would like to continue on. And so whether it's on this committee or a different committee, whether it's in a health, mental health committee, I'm not sure. But I'd like to, at this point, sort of formally end the opioid task force. I think it's been a great success, and work with a kind of a smaller group on getting those recommendations into action. So that's what this is about. Does anybody have any questions about that? I mean, and I'll repeat the numbers because it's really very positive. At this point last year, it was either 14 or 15 deaths we had seen already from opioid addiction, opioid use. This year, it's 1. 1 is way too many, but that's why we're going to stay on this issue. But I feel like, I hope that our efforts are having a positive impact. The numbers are encouraging. So we're not folding up our tent. We're going to stay on this issue and hope that through public education and getting resources to people, and increasing law enforcement to interrupt the supply, and working with the schools on education, that we will continue to prevent further tragedy here. So anyway, so that's what this is doing here. All right, we had a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. There is a resolution on the walk-ons to actually put some people into those positions, so. 699 of 18, which is co-sponsored by all of us, authorizes the removal of unsafe, dangerous,
That was
oh, we did this one
That's
already.
the one we
That was-
Well, 699 was withdrawn.
Yes,
And then
699 should be
700 is the
withdrawn.
one we
Right,
did.
exactly.
All right, so
Just
this,
duplicate.
this one, all right, 699 is withdrawn, thank you. 700 we approved. Yes?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. 701, co-sponsored with Councilman Bouvier, is a notice of adoption to amend Chapter 177 Septic System Rebate and Incentive Program in order to change the procedure for payment of rebates for innovative and alternative on-site wastewater treatment systems.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. Ooh, I don't know why you're not the lead on this one, but that's okay. But you've worked the most on it, so you certainly should have been the lead. So there's a motion, and
got it done.
and I don't,
Let's put it that way.
I think this is really, you know, it makes a tremendous amount of sense to make these changes. This is the floor area one, John, or is this the,
No, this was the change in the rebate.
oh, this is the.
Income
The
eligibility.
income eligibility, we're doing that one first.
So, you know, that part of this process is, and it seems to be working well, is that as we learn things, we are able to have a flexible law that we can adapt to things that we learn through staff and through experiences of constituents and so forth. So I'm very pleased with the way this is going. And, you know, I want to acknowledge Christine's work on this from the very beginning, and it's going well. So I'm very, very pleased.
So wait, now, is this the one that allows us to
This changes.
give the rebate to a third party?
No, that's different. Oh, wait a minute, I think you're right. Hold on.
Yeah, this allows the election of. Right, right. There's so many of these, it's
I
getting
know, we're-
confusing. So this
We didn't
allows,
have the hearing on this one today.
Yeah, we did with Len.
we already had the hearing on this,
Yes.
right? So this would allow the person receiving the rebate to assign it to the contractor.
Right.
Which is the issue that it would have been taxable otherwise, which is something that we were not aware of.
Right, exactly.
And can I ask,
Doubly, it's still taxable, but now it's not doubly taxable.
for people who have already been through this and got stuck in that little loophole, are we doing anything for them?
We're working on that right now to see what we can do.
Good.
It's not a huge amount of people. It was caught, I think, fairly early. And it doesn't actually amount to a whole lot, but that we're in talks with Len about now.
Thanks, John.
All right, so there's a motion, and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
We on 702.
702, yep.
Resolution 702 is an authorization of cost reimbursement waiver for the North Sea Lions Club Annual Carnival from August 22nd through the 26th, 2018.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman Lofstad, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 703 recalls and amends resolution number 2018-571 in order to include secret determination.
Second.
So this is on the
Let's just make it
Frank
up, yeah, we just,
downtown
it
grant.
was, let's make it a type 2.
It's a,
This is the, yeah.
okay, makes it a type 2 action. Okay, seconded by Councilwoman Scalero. Oh, did you read that?
Yes.
Yeah, I did.
You read that, so who, oh.
No, you read it, I seconded it.
I read it, you seconded it. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Okay, thank you. 704, co-sponsored by all of us. Resolution adjusting the tent fee for the Hampton Classic Horse Show.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Cool.
Resolution 705 is a resolution supporting Flanders Riverside Northampton Civic Association, Franca, grant application for the New York State DEC Environmental Justice Grant, and it's co-sponsored with the supervisor.
All right, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, approved. 706 of 18 appoints Alan Fajardo to to ordinance inspector, Spanish-speaking position in investigations and enforcement unit.
Second?
Second by Councilwoman Lofstad, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. 707 appoints Joaquim Ramirez to minibus driver position in senior services transportation.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman Lofstad, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 708 of 18 authorizes town management services administrator to attend the New York State Municipal Workers' Compensation Alliance Summer Board meeting.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 709 creates Geographic Information Systems Technician 1 position in Geographic Information Systems and appoints Jacqueline Normoyle to the position.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman Lofstad, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 2018-710, notice of public hearing to consider amending Town Code Chapter, oh no, we're going to withdraw this one.
Yeah, we had a request from
Right.
the police chief to withdraw this because he's working, I guess, with the property owner on addressing this in a different way.
And we did speak with the chief, how about tabling it? Or did he specifically say?
It can always be reintroduced.
You know, this has been a really ongoing problem. I'm a little surprised that this was even suggested. I thought this was a creative solution for a really long-standing, ongoing problem on that road, and some homeowners there are really going through the mill.
The chief, he reached out to both Tommy John and I today, and he said that,
And to me.
and to the supervisor, that they feel they've made some progress. That's why I'm thinking maybe tabling it, so it's still.
Yeah, I actually
right here in
have
front
some
of us.
ideas as well for how to manage this situation in a way to relieve the problem in the neighborhood.
I just-
if you want to table it.
10 years.
I'm just worried it's going to drag on, and then we're going to be into next year, and then it's going to.
It can be reintroduced, but whatever your pleasure is, if you want to table it or withdraw it.
Because this is setting the public hearing for the 24th, so everyone's going to kill it anyway.
Oh, okay. Oh, got it.
Right, so you could just hold it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would, this resolution is setting a public hearing for the 24th, so we might as well.
Yeah, you might as
Makes
well
any
withdraw
sense to
it,
table
because if you're gonna,
So if you table it, you have to take an action.
Right.
Okay.
So,
All right.
so withdraw it then.
Motion
Okay?
to withdraw.
On that motion?
It's not a motion.
I mean,
Okay.
at least for
It's just
discussion,
withdrawal.
Councilwoman
Yeah.
Lobstadt, have you talked with the homeowners in particular in this case?
I believe that today, the police department was going to reach out
Okay,
to the
yes, great.
neighborhood homeowners, yes.
So, Councilman Scavone, you're withdrawing?
Yes.
Okay. And you concur, Council, as a co-sponsor? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. All right, so it's withdrawn.
Town Board Resolution 2018-711, we'll withdraw that as well because it's the same situation.
Okay.
But I am looking forward to the police department resolving it with the business owner there. And
Yes.
if not, then I plan to.
Okay.
Okay, and Councilman Scavone, you're okay with withdrawing that as well?
Yes.
Okay. So let's move on then to 712. Authorize acquisition, we did that one?
We did that.
I'm happy to say. 713, authorize acquisition of lands of Larson Estate, Hampton Bays, and amends the CPF management and stewardship plan to include that property. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. So this is the one to the left over there. This is that sort of square piece, a nice large piece in Hampton Bays, surrounded by a high density of housing, at least by our standards. And one of the first that we're doing with water quality as a future site for some kind of clustered system. It makes, if you look at it, it seems to make great sense. It is near the water, as Councilwoman Lofstad pointed out earlier. It has great potential for this, so I'm, going to support this, and I hope the board does as well.
The argument is that we have these opportunities once in a while in those high-dense areas where cluster systems may make sense either now or into the future, and it just seems wise to acquire those properties for that purpose under CPF water quality. I'm not sure, Kathleen, is this the third or fourth of the lands that we've acquired in these high-density areas for, I don't have the number in my head, I think it's a third, yeah.
Yeah, even for containing road runoff, rain gardens, things
A lot,
like
yeah,
that. You
there's
could do
there's
things.
a lot of good reasons to have some open space in those high-density areas that we can use later on.
I mean, it could have been purchased as just an open space parcel, or like a community, hamlet park kind of thing. Or
Well, in that case, though, then we wouldn't be able to use it for some of the water quality purposes.
Exactly,
yeah.
so it might have fallen under the old program, but I think this makes sense as a candidate for the new program. Anyone else on it?
I agree with all of you in terms of its potential to help water quality. My only concern, and I think, John, we were going to work on some special permit, special guidance for these that go into an R10, because I'm assuming, or potentially this could be in that area, is that the residents know that this, I don't know what the notification is, when they see it being bought by 20%, do they really understand that at some point this could be a wastewater treatment facility, which, arguably, obviously, we would need and is a good thing. But there are also maybe people that don't feel that way, and just in terms of them being notified and able to come out and voice their opinion and having a site plan, which will come.
That is
but
what's behind that. That's
I
been
wanna work on
part of the
it.
discussion in the working group, the Water Quality Board and that group, is to exactly that, how to notice. But the idea is not to mandate it, is to just make it available for now. And should there be the opportunity where homeowners come together to form associations or other groups, then that's what we're talking about. So that hasn't changed in the mindset.
Okay.
All right. So I made a motion, there was a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. Councilman Bouvier, you're up.
Town Board Resolution 714, road review application for Eva Calucci Papalardo, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-175-01-10, Situate and Hampton Bays is accepted.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scalera, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. All right, let's go to the walk-on packet. First, we have to make a motion.
Don't feel guilty, go. It's beautiful. You can
Yeah.
go. We understand.
Wait, you weren't just...
Wait, before we change our
Don't
mind.
feel guilty.
This is some lesson in Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, so...
Wait a minute, was it a good lesson in civics? All right.
To be determined.
Thank you.
All right, so we have three walk-on resolutions, 29745, which is in the matter of the establishment of the North Sea Beach, Colony Beach Erosion Control District in the town of Southampton, County of Suffolk, New York. The second one is 29750, which is our warrant. Where is that one? Excuse me. It's warrant 13, capital 13, CPF 13, and payroll liability. Excuse me. And then 29753 appoints members to serve on the Opioid Addiction and Recovery Committee that we just created a few moments ago. So I'll make a motion to walk those three resolutions on.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so it's a unanimous board, so they are lawfully in front of us now. We'll take them one at a time. 29745, and Kathleen, I might need you to step forward on this. This is in the matter of the establishment of the North Sea Beach Colony Beach Erosion Control District in the town of Southampton, County of Suffolk, New York. All right, can I get a second for the purposes of discussion?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Schiavone. Kathleen Murray, our Deputy Town Attorney, will explain.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So this is the official order for this board to establish the Beach Erosion Control District. As you may recall, you did previously approve it subject to two conditions. One was the affirmative vote of a majority of the owners of taxable real property within the district, and two was the approval from the New York State Comptroller's Office. In March, you got that affirmative vote from the taxpayers within that district, and then on July 6th, so just a few days ago, we did receive approval from the New York State Comptroller's Office. So now the next step is to have this resolution, if you're so inclined, to be passed. We will file that in the Suffolk County Clerk's office, and that will trigger a 30-day period in which any aggrieved party can appeal that determination and appeal the establishment of the district. In the meantime, we'll prepare bid specs. We won't go out to bid until that 30 days has lapsed. And then the next step would be you will see a resolution for a bid in front of you.
Okay, thank you. This is a lot of work.
It is.
It's highly
Which is okay,
specialized.
but it is a lot.
Well, this is one of those. This is one of those allowable districts, tax districts under New York State law, and it's one of the ones that allow for a benefit-based formula. And this has a very creative benefit-based formula, and there is a requirement that the state controller's office sign off that that benefit is fair or
Correct.
right.
And they're typically looking at the bond and indebtedness and to make sure that that's affordable for everybody within the district.
So they have, last time we spoke, they hadn't gotten back to us, but now they have.
Correct. We had a couple of follow-up correspondence with them to clarify some things, answer some questions, and then, yes, on July 6th, we got an official order from them approving it. And just it's splitting hairs, but just for the record, they only look at that amount that's bonded, so they're approving the $340,000. The total project cost is $406,000. The remainder of those monies go towards maintenance and operating expenses, which is not bonded, but for clarity's sake, just so you know, the comptroller's office is only looking at that 340 plus interest, which comes to 371.
So this is really the final step for this board at the moment in terms of creating the district?
It is, yes.
And then there's obviously the other step would be then to execute the project.
Correct.
And assess it accordingly.
Yes.
Okay. So we had a motion, and I think Tommy John was the second, I recall. We'll vote. I'll call the vote if there's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain.
And one, that's right, you had not voted for the original, right? So one abstention from Councilman Lofstad, 4 yeas, ayes, so it is approved. Thank you.
So we're going to be working on the next one.
Yeah.
You're smiling, but you're not really smiling.
Which, I'm not sure which is the next one.
Maybe she loves you, John.
Is Honey Pot Pond, or is it the burying the power lines and,
But thank you, that
Long
was
Beach?
a lot of work, really was.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Yeah, Kathleen, it's really arduous, some of this.
We're very fortunate to have her. I'm very
Yes,
fortunate.
we are. Okay, so moving on to the next one. So I guess it's 29750, warrant number 13, capital number 13, CPF number 13.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Lofstad. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approved. All right, and the last resolution, 29753, appoints members to serve on the Opioid Addiction and Recovery Committee. Susan Sargent, Catherine Diana. So Susan Sargent is a consultant, mental health and substance abuse services. Catherine Diana is emergency room nurse at Stony Brook Hospital. Kim Laube, you all know, executive director of HUGS. Karen Martin is Dr. Karen Martin, director of prevention, alternatives counseling services. Lynn Turancamo is very active within the community from the Hampton Bays area. Mark Epley from Seafields, executive director, former mayor. Nancy Lynett, director, Town of Southampton Youth Bureau. James Rowanelli, vice president, security at Northwell Health. Dr. Dan Van Arsdale, addiction specialist, Stony Brook Southampton Hospital. Drew Scott, who co-chaired the other family member and also a family member of a victim of the opioid crisis. Alfredo Marat from Narcotics Anonymous as a representative. Danielle Aliberti, a family member of a victim. Father Constantine Lazarakis as clergy. Chief Stephen Skrinicki, Southampton Town Police. Nick Dino, Superintendent of Southampton Public Schools. And Samantha Barrett would be the Hampton Bays, she's a Hampton Bays High School graduate. recent graduate, somebody who can try to represent some of the younger people involved. So those all fall into the categories and numbers that were approved in the resolution earlier today.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scalera. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. All right, is there any other business? Seeing none, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scalera. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.